Hey everybody, Mr. B here. Real quick review for CBA 2 so you can check and see how you did on these questions. I'm going to go real fast, so pause the video to get what you need. Question 1, he answered 80% of the questions on his math test. Which one is not equivalent to 80? Okay, when you look at this fraction, you can divide both of them by 3, which gives you 4/5. You can multiply them both by 20 to get 80 over 100, which is equal to 80%. You can also just treat it like a division problem. 12 over 15 is 12 divided by 15, which will also give you 0.80, which is also equal to 80 over 100, which is equal to 80%. Answer choice B is obviously equal to it because it's 80 to the hundredths place, which is 80 over 100, which is 80%. Answer choice C is not, because 34 over 40, divide them both by 2, that's equivalent to 17/20. Take 17/20 and get the denominator to 100 by multiplying them both by 5. 17 times 5 is 85 over 100, that's 85%, not 80. We were looking for the one that is not equivalent to 80. C is not equivalent to 80. Question number 15. What percent of the poster board did James use for the project? He used the shaded portion, so he used 9 out of 12. You can divide both of those by 3 to make 3/4. You can multiply them both by 25 to get to 75 over 100. Because we're looking for a percent, all percents are out of 100. So this is 75%. And just looking at the picture right here, okay, 75% is more than half. More than half of it is shaded. Common sense tells you it's got to be more than 50%. All right, looking here, students voted on their favorite sport. Gives you some different percentages there, and it says circle the strip diagram that shows the students who chose soccer. Soccer was 25%. So when you look at all of these bar graphs, I drew a line right down the middle because this would be 0%, this would be 100%. Here's 50%. This bar is way over that. This bar is exactly that. These two bars are really far away from that. If you know where half is, you can find half of half, which is 25%. And when you draw a line through there, you can see that this one fits from 0 all the way to 25%. So that one is the one you should circle for soccer. On number 17, out of 25 girls, she sold 19 tickets to the carnival. Express that as a percent. So here we go again. 19 out of 25. We need to get the denominator to 100 for a percent. Multiply them both by 4. 76 over 100, 76%. Once again, you can always just divide the fraction and get a decimal, and then change your decimal to the percent. 18. She spends 15% of her day traveling in the car. How many hours does she spend in the car? Okay, 15% of 24 hours is what she spends in the car. When you want part of something, you're multiplying. So we're going to take that 15%, make it 15 out of 100, multiply, because it says of. 24 is just 24 over 1. 15 times 24 is 360. 100 times 1 is 100. So you're looking at 360 divided by 100, which is what this is here. When you divide by 100, all you have to do is move the decimal over 2 places to the left. So 360 becomes 3.6, okay? We've talked about that a ton in class. Dividing by 100 is moving the decimal point 2 places left. If you want, you can go do the long division, but you really don't need to. Number 19, Jennifer had a coupon for 20% off a pair of jeans that cost $60. How much did she pay for the jeans after using the coupon? So 20% off means you're taking 20% away from 60. How much are we taking away from 60? Okay. 20% can be made by breaking it down into 10% and 10%. 10% of a number is just moving the decimal point 1 place to the left. So 60, move it 1 place to the left, is, when you do that, it becomes 6. So 10% of 60 is 6. You don't need 10%, you need 20%. So if 10% is 6 and another 10% is 6, add those percents together to get your 20, add the 6's together to get your $12 off. 12 is not the answer. It would be if it said, how much did she save? Watch out for a question like that tomorrow on the test. It does not say how much did she save. It says how much did she pay. So you need to do one more step. Take the amount she saved away from 60 and you'll get $40, okay? You also could have said 20% of 60. 20% is 20 over 100. Of means multiply. 60 is 60 over 1. 20 times 60 is 1200. 100 times 1 is 100. And you divide 1200 by 100 and you'll get 12. Or you can cross out those zeros and just have 12 over 1, which is just 12. Number 20, donations were taken for a family in need. The community raised 160% of the original goal, which value is not equivalent to 160%. So we're over 100% on this one. Just want to know which one is not equivalent to 160%. All right, so come down here and did some work. 160%, all percents are over 100, so 160 over 100. 100 denominator means go to the hundreds place with this number. So I made a little place value chart and I stopped at the hundreds place. Here's my ones, here's my tenths, here's my hundredths. So in order to stop at this place, the 0 had to be here, the 6 had to be here, and the 1 had to be here. So 1.60. That means this one works. Decimal point is the word and. This is 1 and 60 hundredths, okay? 1 and 60 over 100. Here's your 1.0. Here's your 60 hundredths, 1 and. So we're adding them, 1 and 60 hundredths more. That's 1.60, okay? That is 1 whole and 60 hundredths as a mixed number. So you see that one here. And this one is the same because 60 out of 100 is the same thing as 6 out of 10. You can cross out that 0 and get your 1 and 6 out of 10. So those are equivalent. This one's equivalent. This one's not. This says 6 to the hundredths place. Okay, that's different than 60 to the hundredths place. If you put the 6 in the hundredths place, you have 1.06, which is a very different number than 1.60. Okay, on the back. Describe below how you know which variables are independent and dependent. If you're working in a graph like this, all students have been taught the values that go up and down, we label dry. The values that go left and right, we label mix, dry mix. D for dependent, Y for y-axis, I for independent, X for x-axis. All of these on the bottom are independent quantities. All of these on the side are dependent quantities. Take your plotted points and match them up. When X is 1, Y is 100. When X is 2, Y is probably just, if you're careful looking at this, it's probably slightly less than 200. So dependent, always on the side in a graph. Independent, always on the bottom in a graph. If it's a table for some reason, instead of a graph, watch out. All tables are a little different. X and Y in a table, then it's not going to be, it's going to be independent over here, dependent over here. Once again, mix for X, the I is independent, dry for Y, the D is dependent. So a table's slightly different than a graph. 22, write an equation that describes the rule in the table. Well, obviously moving from 1 to $12.50 and 2 to $25, obviously things are growing. There's only two things in math that makes things bigger, either adding to the number or multiplying to the number. Studying it for a little bit, you realize, hey, anything times 1 is itself. So 1 times 1250 has to be 1250. Well, let's test and see if that's true for the rest of them. If you take 1250 and double it, you do get $25. If you take 1250 and multiply by 4, you do get $50. So pretty soon you see that works for everything in the table. So what that means is you take the H value, whatever it is, multiply it by 1250, and you're going to get this M value on the other side. So H value times 1250 equals M. You can flip that around and say M equals 1250 times H. If you'd use no multiplication symbol, you can put a number next to a letter. You can even use parentheses to show multiplication. H times 1250 equals M. 23 is writing a goal. What do you want? What are you going to do tonight to get better? Okay. What are you going to do to make CBA 2 more successful than your last CBA or DBA test? Write yourself a small goal. 24, I asked my family members what type of smartphone they had. 14 people said iPhone, 36 people said Android. What percent has iPhone? Well, this is 14 that have an iPhone out of how many? It's not 14 out of 36 people, because I asked 14 people and then I asked 36 people. That's a total of 50 people. So it's 14 out of 50, not 14 out of 36. I need to get it to 100 to get a percent. Easy to do. 50 times 2 is 100. 14 times 2 is 28. That's 28%. Okay. Last one, list the value of the shaded portion on the model as a fraction decimal percent. Count up the shaded ones. It's 7. Count up the total. It's 20. 7/20ths. Take your 7/20ths. Get it to a percent. All percents are over 100. So let's make this 20 a 100. 20 times 5 is 100. 7 times 5 is 35. Anything over 100 is your percent. So 35%. All right, what's my decimal then? Well, 35 to the hundredths place. Okay, so there's the hundredths place right there, 0.35. Or use your D to P, P to D strategy. Here's a percent. I want to make it a decimal. So I'm going from P to D. So I move the decimal 2 places left. If I have a decimal and I want to go to a percent, I move it 2 places to the right. I didn't have a decimal. I had a percent. So I moved it. Here's the decimal point. Remember, all numbers have a decimal point to the right of the number if you don't see it. And you move it from, it is a percent. So we're going percent to decimal. 1, 2. There's the decimal point. 0.35. There's your decimal. Okay. Good luck studying tonight. Hope this helps. Again, pause the video, go back and look at the questions that you need help with. You already have all the answers to study guide 1 and 2. I expect big things tomorrow on our CBA. Good luck.